You are listening to the 2 and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
So then all CC and Glenn Suter could talk about was the $1 million from Safeway, if it was going to happen.
What about Karen?
Oh, screw Karen.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the 2 and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out, and they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB, Brazilian Ty. Hoo-hoo. I was at Metallica last night. I can't believe I survived it, but back home in Red Deer, the games have been watched. And it seems to be now a weekly tradition here. Is this because of NFL football or something? But you are, texting me every week now what is on the menu for your Sundays, and it's not good.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and the time zone kind of works into my advantage. So with NFL games not starting until noon in the Central Time Zone, right. I can still run into town. And get McDonald's between 11 and noon, because then breakfast is over. And if I get there early enough, I beat the church crowd and it's not too busy. And I can load up with nuggets and an Angus burger, and then I can eat, continue to eat what I started on last night.
How much exercise helps burn off any of these calories?
When I exercise, I'll tell you.
I have to tell you, man, that show yesterday, probably the sweatiest show I'd ever been at. I think I'm covered for the rest of Grey Cup Fit Up because, well, when the crowd was getting into Saskatoon Centre in Saskatoon, it started raining. So then everybody gets into the arena wet. And then
they're
they
moist,
sweat.
Yes.
Oh, you were feeling the walls walking out of the arena and it was wet.
Ugh. It was like that. Was it like that scene from Alien where all you hear is like the dripping?
Just disgusting. My brother was sweating so much. They were throwing picks into the crowd, guitar picks. I got one. One stuck to his forearm.
Yes.
The best catch he'd ever made in his life.
Like, speaking of sweating, people get the meat sweats.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have the chocolate sweats right now. Like, it's bad.
Chocolate sweats. Last night I had the Pilsner sweats.
Yeah, I've eaten a whole bag of Smarties, some Toffifees. I had a caramel and an Aero bar on the way into town. I'm on like my 5th Coke.
I gotta know what you eat at Christmas time.
Butter and salt. We went over this.
Join 2 and Out for CFL Fantasy and CFL Pick'em and show Currah and Ty what you got.
They are who we thought they were.
Just click cflfantasy.tsn.ca.
Enough from talking about it. There has to be consequences.
And pick'em.cfl.ca.
All right, the first game of the week, BC beating Montreal 32-14, and it happened real early in the game. I guess we just better get into it. Travis Lulay leaves basically just after an awkward fall. John Bowman hits him, and I guess dislocated, separated shoulder. I'd ended up getting popped back in, but obviously he's going to miss probably the next 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Basically the season. And, at this point, the Lions are in a fight to get into that crossover spot over to the east. So, Jonathan Jennings, man, now is your time. Can you play like you did in 2016? But it is hard not to feel bad for a guy like Travis Lulay, who fights so hard to get back onto the field. It seems, well, at this point, routine for him. Year after year after year gets back onto the field and then has this injury, what is this the 5th injury against the Montreal Alouettes in the month of September for him, which is That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's not just year after year that he gets injured. It's game after game against Montreal that he gets
bizarre.
injured. And it is bizarre. It's just one of those things that just, I don't know what it is. It just happens. And it is too bad because, like you said, BC is in the fight of their lives right now to try to get into that 4th spot and get that crossover into the East. And Jennings, didn't look terrible, didn't look great, but Lule was leading that team, and they lost Husband last week. They lose Lule this week now for the season. It's all just starting to pile up, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot for BC to overcome the adversity that they're facing here in these last 2 weeks.
And the CFL is probably the wackiest league in existence. It is just so impossible to predict because you can say, well, the Lions, their defense in the past few weeks has beaten up on some struggling teams, but that Ottawa offense that they shut down lit up the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense. So it's really hard to predict what's going on here, but the Lions defense really seems to be gelling in the last few weeks. And Antonio Pipkin, I think a lot of fantasy players in particular were excited for him because he's really cheap, 2 games in a row, coming off the bye. And I think a lot thought that, you know what, he's going to come and have himself, a nice game. Well, 2.7 points from your quarterback, that's not going to get it done. No,
and not only coming off the bye, but, BC having to travel cross country for this game. Usually that plays a huge factor, and he looked like a rookie. And young guys are going to have these games. You went 11 to 22 for 95 yards with 4 picks. Still added 69 rush yards, but like you said, 2.7 points. This was not good enough to get the job done.
Well, yeah, and when he almost outrushes his passing totals, that is not a good either. But, man, I thought they could have rushed the ball more. Standback only had the 8 carries for 52 yards, 3 catches for 10 yards. But, when you're turning the ball over that much, then it's really hard to get things done. I thought BC could have rushed the ball more. Jeremiah Johnson only had himself 12 carries. But Montreal was in this until late in the 4th quarter, and I'm trying to think here. I think they were losing by 2 points, about 4 minutes left, and they took the safety. And I get it in theory, but they take the safety. Now they need at least a touchdown to take the lead, and it wasn't going to happen because Pipkin ends up throwing 2 pick sixes in the final few minutes of that game. But the Montreal defense played well. Muamba was all over the place in this one, and Boris Beatty can launch that ball over 50 yards. And it just kind of seemed to me like Sherman was trying to pull the CFL coach move by taking the safety, and I really don't think it worked out in that situation.
Well, if they kick it, they're giving the short field or short-ish field. And Ty Long has been pretty good this year. So then if they do kick it, they give it the short field, and BC, they're able to hold them to just a field goal, they still need that touchdown to take the lead, right? It's not like they can go down and kick a field goal to get the lead in that situation.
Either way, their offense had to do something.
Either way, their offense would have had to score a touchdown. So I think this way, it's inevitable. At one point isn't going to make a difference. Like whether you're down by 5 or whether you're down by 4, whether you're down by 5, in the big scheme of things. So take the safety and try to flip field position a little bit. At the same time, I hate giving up points, but when you're basically giving up a field goal anyway. So I would just give up the safety and try to win a field position battle at that point.
John Jennings in relief, 19 of 30, 180 yards. Some NFL stats there, a touchdown, an interception. He had the 46 rush yards as well, which was kind of good to see because I feel like over the past year and a half, he's almost tried to become a bit of a pocket passer. I heard a great interview with him, kind of overthinking things. Football is a game. It's supposed to be fun. but really overthinking things and reading all these books, talking to psychiatrists, trying to relax for the season and on the football field. But when he first came into this league, he just went out there and played. Mm-hmm. And that's when he had his best success.
And also when that happens, though, it's a new quarterback, and there's nothing more dangerous than that than a guy with no film.
There's that too, yeah.
The coaching in this league is pretty good, and the defenses and coaches are able to make adjustments once they get some film and get ideas of how to shut down at least one aspect of your game. And if they can do that, puts so much more emphasis on the pass game. If they can shut down Jennings on the ground and just puts added pressure, and like you said, thinking too much and all that stuff just compounds the issue.
So Brian Burnham, he had himself a 100-yard game, ended up having the touchdown as well, so you're happy if you took him. Ricky Collins had 6 catches. Devere Posey, his first game as a BC Lion, 4 catches for 32 yards, and they didn't use Chris Rainey as much as they thought they would. But Montreal, especially it seemed in this game, when BC tried to run off tackle or have those screen passes and in the flats, Montreal was all over it. And that's kind of Chris Rainey's bread and butter, right?
Yeah, get him in space, let him, make a tackle or miss, make a play, and he was not able to do that. He did have 140 return yards, but yeah, I mean, they're still. If he was pissed that they weren't using him enough before, I don't think this fixes anything.
Yeah. As for Montreal, there's nothing good to say about the offense. Stanback was their highest scoring player at 9.2 points there. So moving forward, we know it's going to be Jennings for BC. At this point, I think it has to be Manziel. And it's just the way the media works. It's the way the headlines work. When I saw the articles, and I guess I probably should eat crow a little bit here, I thought what Manziel said looked really bad. But when I saw the whole interview, it didn't seem as bad at all. Mm-hmm.
Wait, you're saying that stuff that was in print was taken out of context? No, come on. Nobody does that.
Never. But you know what? I bid it hook, line, and sinker, so I guess that's on me as well. But it has to be Manziel for the rest of the season here. I talked about it with Andrew on Thursday's show.
My replacement.
Yeah, partly my fault. He's not coming cheap. So I think Montreal needs to know what they have with Manziel for the rest of the season, because I see this going, well, it could go a few ways here. If he does poorly the rest of the season, is Montreal going to want to pay him this much next season? And does Manziel want to stick around? So there's a few questions surrounding this situation.
And if he is not performing in 3 weeks' time, and has 2 out of these 3 games, out of their next 3 games that are just absolute garbage, does Pipkin get another shot?
Maybe it's the film on Pipkin that the Lions really figured out here, because he almost looked like a new hope. Help me, Antonio Pipkin. You're our only hope.
Only hope.
And the last 2-3 weeks of progress were just flushed down the toilet with this one game.
I wouldn't say flushed down the toilet, other than the fact that Ottawa won and Hamilton lost. So I mean, he didn't lose any ground on second place, but a lot of confidence gets taken away, and a lot of just I don't know the word I'm looking like. I don't want to say swagger, but. That cockiness that an offense has when it's clicking, and especially with Pipkin being what he was, like being able to run in touchdowns and make plays with his feet and do a lot of stuff, and he wasn't being stopped all that often. It's just an offense just starts to click, and Friday night, it just blew up in their face.
Well, let's look back at Montreal's season so far. The most points they've gotten in a game is 25.
Mm-hmm.
That
it's not going to win you a lot of football games. Not in the CFL.
It is not. I mean, Edmonton and Calgary 48-42 last week. Toronto beat Ottawa 42-41 a few weeks ago. Your 25 points is that's not going to work. So I don't think they're losing much by putting Manziel in there, but now he's going to Winnipeg, and the Bombers do have to be desperate. It's going to be interesting to see what the fans are going to be like at that game, because the Bombers, they're all of a sudden at the bottom of this crazy Wild Wild West division.
Which is not exactly where everybody thought they would be.
No, I think they were
somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah.
With Travis Bond gone now, and they lost Hardwick. That's two big losses off that O-line, and an O-line that everybody thought was the best O-line in the league. That's a huge hole for the Bombers to fill. Matt Nichols getting injured to start the year. Sure, Strevler held down the fort, got them a couple wins, but since he's come back, he has not protected the football all that well in the last couple of weeks. We saw it against Saskatchewan, where he just made not poor. I'm not calling them poor decisions; they were stupid decisions on the one to Guavin. Just take the sack. He needs that. Well, that whole team they need to turn it around. And like you said, they need to be desperate. They need to come out and attack and force Manziel into some mistakes, or else Manziel, if they don't get to Manziel, it's just going to be he's going to be able to run all over them. But we can talk about that on Thursday before we get too into it and ruin all of our pregame stuff.
Yeah, so I guess let's get to game number 2 on Saturday then, the early one on Saturday. Calgary beats Hamilton 43-28. Calgary, they were down early actually. Mm-hmm. Hamilton, I think they got out to a 10-0 lead, and then there was kind of a wild stretch there because Calgary scores a touchdown, and then Hamilton returns the kick for a touchdown, and then Calgary returns a fumble for a touchdown. It got real crazy there in a few minutes here. But Tavares Daniels going down to injury, another receiver, not only for the CFL, but for the Stampeders. So, Kamar Jordan hurt. Eric Rogers, he started practicing again on Thursday, so he could come back very, very soon. But now Tavares here as well. I know Calgary has a ton of depth. We saw Breskison here at a 100-yard game. Mark and Michelle had a touchdown, but they can't afford much more losses in that receiving core, man.
No, it's crazy the amount of injuries they've had to the receivers. With Tavares Daniels going down, Eric Rogers down, it's absolutely insane. Bo Levi Mitchell right now, to me, is my MOP over Mike Riley, just because he has had basically no consistency since week 4 with his receivers. It seems to just be a revolving door at that position, and he is finding ways to make guys better. Would you have thought that we would say Reggie Bagleton was like his number one option at any point this year?
Probably not.
Right? And Bo Levi made him the number one receiver. Right? Bo Levi made him the number one receiver in that game once Daniels went down. And sure enough, it takes Bagleton to answer that call to do that. But Bo to just, doesn't matter who's at that position, gets the job done.
Well, Bagleton's proving he's another one of those guys in that Calgary factory that he deserves to be there, and he's proven it. He's got over 300 receiving yards basically in the past 2 games. So he had 150 yards here and a touchdown, and he's only $3,500 in fantasy. And with Daniels going down, he has to be those must-own guys in fantasy now.
Oh, for sure. I'm assuming his price is going to go up coming into their next game. But, he's still not going to be up where guys like Duke Williams and Eric Rogers, even though he's hurt, he was still over 6,500, and he's going to be a cheaper option and a guy who right now it's either him or Breskison that's really their number one option. I know with Michelle in there, they can still spread that ball around a little bit, but to me, Bagleton just seems like he's going to be their number one target.
I really like Breskison. I'm a fan of him. So they do still have some quality receivers, just not as much experience. Romar Morris has another nice game. 3 catches on 6 targets for 16 yards, 16 rushes for 98 yards. So now they've got 3, I guess, quality running backs. Williams, Jackson, Morris. The Calgary factory just continues to roll. But the highlight of this game to me is getting tackled by the Dreads.
I love that. I love it. If you're going to grow your hair out, expect it, and you're going to run away from people, expect them to pull it to get you.
Oh,
that's I would do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Well, it's what defenders do. Sometimes it's not on purpose. They're just grabbing for anything. This is having to be connected to his head.
Yep. Well, I guess somebody's getting a haircut this week.
Okay, hands up if you had Shakir Ryan in your fantasy lineup. And if you put your hand up, you're a liar.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine?
Oh, that would have been awesome. You would have been the Oracle.
How would they have justified charging $2,500 for him? He would have been worth like $300 coming in.
Well, and I guess
and
room was made when Brandon Banks didn't play the game, right?
Yeah, and he did exactly what Brandon Banks is expected to do on return, so it worked out very well in Hamilton's favor.
Yeah, 218 kickoff return yards. The punts didn't go as well, but 22 fantasy points. And I would actually like to see if anybody in the entire country had him on their fantasy team, because that would
Was
be
he even available
impressive.
is the next question.
Yeah, that's another solid question as well. But that Tiger Cat receiving core, they're really depleted right now, and I think Banks will probably be back next week. But Banks, Saunders, Williams, now you got Tasker. Of course, I mean, when you can focus in on the guy and a defense the quality of Calgary, how do you make room for him? And Tolliver's been struggling as well, but I'm not going to blame Mazzoli. The Calgary defense, I think they've proved after the third game that they're the best defense in this league, and even going into Tim Hortons Field against Jeremiah Mazzoli, I don't think there's a doubt that Calgary defense is the best without Micah Johnson too.
Well, and the situation helps as well with, we know Hamilton, quote unquote, spreads the ball around, but it's really only to Alex Green, Luke Tasker, and Brandon Banks. And Brandon Banks was out of the lineup. Terrence Tolliver hasn't been the Terrence Tolliver we saw before his knee injury. Alex Green, they held him to 51 rushing yards. He only got 11 touches. So if you're gonna have a run and shoot offense, you got to be able to run the ball. And 9 times this isn't enough to establish much. And Luke Tasker was held to only 60 yards. It kept him out of the end zone, so that's huge. Like we said, when Tasker and Banks and Green are the only guys getting the football, it's really easy to shut that. Well, maybe not easy, but it's easy to key in on them and make that a point of your defense to stop those guys and let other guys hurt you, like Tolliver and Mike Jones. And they weren't able to do that.
Bo had 270 yards, 18.9 fantasy points. Mazzoli hurt you, 4.8 fantasy points in this one. Sometimes when there are 3 games, I think, hey, it might be easier when it comes to fantasy. I think it's a bit tougher.
It's impossible. It can't be done.
Did you have a rough week?
I'm so done with CFL fantasy football. I'm done with NFL fantasy football. I'm done with Pick'em. Just when does hockey start?
Dude, you're an Oiler fan. When does hockey start? Are you kidding?
Hey, McDavid is appointment viewing. I will watch McDavid play hockey every day of the week. I had one guy get double-digit points this week. One guy, and it was Romar Morris.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So moving on.
Do you really want to talk about the next game?
Oh, man.
Can we just end the podcast? Okay, first, ATB Financial, thank you. Because
Yeah,
we
let's
gotta
get
be
this
nice
in
to
before
you.
we leave.
You want to save money, you want to save trees, paper, all of that good stuff. ATB Financial helps you go all digital with the no-fee, all-in bank account. I'm selling e-transfer. I'm sending e-transfers left and right. No fees, man. That's the best part. No minimum balance, unlimited digital transactions. You got the high balance, like Brazilian Ty. Well, you earn interest, and then you bet it all away, and then you bet it all away on NFL Sundays, and you don't
Stop
get that
telling
interest
stories
anymore.
out of school here.
All digital checking and savings account. It's the no fee, all in with ATB Financial. Get all your information at atb.com. Okay. How mad are you after the Saskatchewan Roughriders lost to the Ottawa Red Blacks on Saturday night?
Okay, so let's start here.
30-25 the final, by the way.
Yeah. Coming into this game, I had picked Montreal and I had picked Hamilton.
Oh, no.
Give you one guess as to who I picked in the late game.
The green team.
Yeah, so there's that. I had the defense and Greg Ellingson, and neither of them did anything. So that felt really good. And again, Zach Collaros was terrible. So where do you want to start?
Well, what's your stat? You got a stat on this game.
Okay, I got some names for you, and you tell me what they have in common.
Okay.
Okay, Jonathan Jennings, Travis Lulay, Bo Levi Mitchell, Mike Riley, Matt Nichols, Jeremiah Masoli, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, Trevor Harris, Antonio Pipkin, Ricky Ray, Kevin Glenn, and Darian Durant.
What do they all have in common?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say they've all started games this season, but
Nope.
Kevin Glenn and Durant haven't. So, well, lay it on me.
Since week 5 of 2017, so week 5 of last year, all of those quarterbacks have had at least 300 yards passing in a game. Who's not on that list?
Zach Collaros.
Yeah. And again, he played like absolute trash on Saturday. Doesn't help that his receivers dropped some balls. But 10 for 27 for 162, go sit in the truck. Brandon Bridge can do that. And he's half the price.
That's an embarrassing game.
It's so bad. It is so bad. And Marcus Sigpen starts everything off. They had the blackout. So the crowd was into it right from intros. Crowd was into it. Place was rocking. Thigpen scores in the opening kickoff. So then all CC and Glenn Suter could talk about was the $1 million from Safeway, if it was going to happen.
What about Karen?
Oh, screw Karen.
That was her name, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you remember that? Why do I
don't
remember
know.
that? And on the road, especially in Saskatchewan, the thing is you have to take the crowd out of it. Well, the crowd was into it right from the very beginning, and it looked like Saskatchewan was going to be able to run away with this. The defense has been playing unreal. Let's go. Then Trevor Harris goes 27 of 34 for 334. William Powell has a game. Deontay Spencer 8 for 8. 8 catches on 8 targets, 110 yards, 111 return yards. RJ Harris, 77 yards.
How about that catch, though? Come on.
That was ridiculous.
What's the defender supposed to do?
I don't know. But, I mean, at some point, and I've been saying this for 4 weeks, and people are like, why do you crap on Zach Collaros? He's winning football games. No, he is not winning football games. This is not a good football team. It's a good defense, and the special teams is good. Zach Collaros is garbage right now, and this offense is hurting because of him, and they can't get anything going. Yeah, I know they scored 25 points, but the offense, again, only scored 1 touchdown. Like, everybody's like, oh, defense wins championships. Yeah, you still got to be able to score points. And then I get told, well, Baltimore in 2001, yeah, and they had 3 shutouts or 4 shutouts in that season. I don't see any shutouts for the Riders this year. You can't continually stop offenses in the CFL. It can't be done. You're not going to have...
That's a different animal. That's a different animal in the NFL, too. Because
it's not a good team right now. It is a good defense, and the special teams is above average. The offense is a joke. It's an absolute joke.
Yeah, I would not compare them to the Baltimore Ravens because well, first of all, it's NFL.
Trent Dilfer never threw for 300 yards in a game that season, but he wasn't turning the ball over at this rate, and they were actually scoring points.
Well, and they were running the ball too, and in the NFL you can kill 8 minutes on a drive.
True.
You can't do that here.
I know what the difference is. It's tough with the timing and the downs and everything, but still, 162 yards, only 10 completions, not acceptable. Not acceptable for a starting quarterback, and he's played the whole game. What are you trying to? What is Chris Jones trying to prove? And I talked with Andrew today. I'm like, man, you guys got rid of him at the perfect time. And he had the good point of saying, yep, because if he doesn't have full power, if he doesn't have complete control over the team, he can be somewhat controlled. And Ed Hervey was big with that. But now he's got full autonomy in Saskatchewan. Forget it. It's his way or the highway. And his way, Saskatchewan's in second place right now. If the offense doesn't start clicking, it's not going to last long. He's just letting it run its course and hoping the defense bails him out. The defense is not going to bail you out every single game. And it almost did again. 30 points, not that terrible. I mean, whatever. But against William Powell, you give up 148 yards, you give up 334 through the air. Trevor Harris, you're not going to win that football game. And especially if you're only scoring 1 touchdown. And a touchdown was basically, like, I don't want to call it garbage time because, that got them close. But you just knew Zach Clark was going to throw a pick at some point. And an ill-advised throw, he underthrows it. I don't know how you underthrow it in that situation. And it cost them the game. I was just pissed off. I went to bed mad, as I usually do after Rider games this season, it seems. And I was up super early and grouchy, so this is just not helping. Okay, you can go.
You know what, man? The issues at quarterback in Saskatchewan run deep, and they're not new. Because this is before Chris Jones. There was never a plan behind Darian Durant. So
what about Mitchell Gale?
Wow, exactly.
Tino? What about Tino?
I know Drew Willie. He was popular in Saskatchewan once upon a time. So whenever Durant got hurt, that team was screwed. So now I think Jones just threw a bit of a Hail Mary trying to get Collaros over from Hamilton, right?
Oh, for sure. And
it was a Hail Mary, and I think everybody saw it at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and at face value, it looked half decent. You know, he has had some success in this league. He hasn't won a Grey Cup, but he's had success in the league. Made plays, and everybody had hoped that he had bounced back from the injuries and the concussions, and it just seems that he is not what he was before all of these issues arose a couple years ago.
You know, and I am a Collaros fan, so it sucks to see this because that 2015 season with Hamilton before he got hurt, that was one of the most fun football I've watched from that Tiger Cats team, and then it all went downhill. And I like watching Mazzoli now, so I guess it kind of worked out for him. But if it continues this way for Collaros, I don't know. I don't know if Jones will take the job away from him, but if he keeps playing like this, I think he's another quarterback that gets shipped out from their team after the season.
Yeah, like Jones may not take the job away from him, but what has he done to keep it?
Yeah. He hasn't inspired much, and you know what? He might be good in the locker room, and the guys maybe believe in him that way, but it's not happening on the field. And you almost could have. I was really confident going into this game, but there was that worry in the back of my head saying that they've won 4 West games in a row. Winnipeg, big rival, 2 in a row. Calgary, big rival, won that game. How do you get up? And I know it's your job as a professional athlete, but how do you get up for, Ottawa? There's no real history there. They come to your place, and I think sometimes that's why the good teams struggle against teams that, there's no real rivalry there. There's no real, hatred there. But that's what separates the Calgarys from the Saskatchewans.
Absolutely. Calgary shows up every week.
They do, and they're never out of it.
I know, and I know they've lost 2 games this year, but those 2 games, it's not like they were disengaged and laying an egg. The Saskatchewan game is just a one-off.
And they came back in that game, and they made it...
made it closer than it should have been.
Distance.
And Edmonton, they scored 42 points and lost.
Yeah, and they were down 20. So
right. Saskatchewan could score 30 points every week and still lose football games if it's not against Calgary, Winnipeg, or Edmonton. Those are the only 3 teams that I feel that when the Riders get a lead, that they're able to hold it. And I know it's weird to say that against Calgary because Calgary seems to stay in every game and they've beat us late a bunch. But the players are up for that game. And like you said, when Hamilton, or maybe not Hamilton so much, but because of Ken Austin, I guess a lot of players aren't there anymore. But like you said, when Ottawa comes in, Ottawa hasn't been playing good football.
No.
They're not scaring anybody right now. When Montreal were to come in, they're not scaring anybody right now. You got the best rush defense. You got Charleston Hughes. He'll shut down Pipkin. And, everybody else just seems, like you said, they're not up for it. Playing down to the other team's level isn't exactly what you want to do. And we've seen it in every sport. It happens. But the offense right now is what's killing this team. And everybody says, with Zach Larson there, the offense runs so much better. And I'm like, well, yeah, because he's a veteran and the cadence and all that stuff and the timing. But if he's not getting the job done, why is he in there? If he's a good locker room guy and stuff like that, good locker room guys can hold the clipboard and help the second string quarterback who's going to be taking that spot. If he was a good team guy, he could manage to do that. Chris Jones isn't going to let that happen because, like you said, he brought him in. It was a Hail Mary. This is Chris Jones's baby. This was the answer to the problem at quarterback, and it obviously wasn't.
Well, and they should have been up for this game because the Red Blacks hammered Saskatchewan back in June, 40-17.
In 1976, Tony Gabriel.
Yeah.
They should still be pissed about that.
And that vaunted defensive line of Saskatchewan's didn't get a sack in that game either, and didn't get a sack in this game. So relying on them game after game after game, it's not the best strategy here. 2 out of 3 phases for Saskatchewan are good, stellar, maybe even great, but the offense, it hasn't been good all year. It really has not been at all. So it's not going to work. It's not going to take them through the playoffs if they cannot do anything and score points when they need to score them.
Zach Collaros, this offense, not helping themselves, only averaging 2.9 yards on first down.
Yeah, that's bad.
You're not making it very manageable, 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8.
That's real bad.
That's so bad.
Well, credit has to be given to Ottawa here as well because, I didn't think anybody was going to rush against this Rough Rider defense, but maybe the Red Blacks learned from Winnipeg on Labor Day when Harris ran for over 150 yards, but Powell runs for 148, scores 2 touchdowns, the biggest fantasy performer of the entire week. Oh, and Dean in our fantasy pool picked no defense and 6 Red Blacks because he hates the Riders and he got lucky. Harris, as you said earlier, 27 of 34 for 334, 2 touchdowns there. So not only did they rush down Saskatchewan's throat, they threw all over the place. And I love Ed Gainey, but he's not having I think teams have figured him out a little bit. He's getting beat and he's not getting the interceptions he had last year. And that tackling that we've seen from him, come on, man.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with the interceptions not being there. That's fine.
Of course, but he's getting beat.
Yeah, but if you're going to get straight up beat, that's not, you're not helping anybody with that.
Well, and you're not helping when you wrap the guy and he just shrugs you off.
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
So, I mean,
or you
Ottawa's
take a pass
offense,
interference penalty and they decline it anyways because they got the catch anyways.
Sometimes I wonder why did we even bother making the call? Just pick up the flag and move on.
Well, yeah, you could do that, I suppose. But, I mean, on the off chance that, what if you only got a 3-yard gain out of it?
Well, and that makes sense, but
right, instead of 2nd and 7, you could have 1st and 10 again at the spot of the foul.
We want to speed up the game some more, but let's just call this pass interference that they gained 35 yards and a touchdown on, and we'll see if they'll decline it. Maybe that's a smart idea.
You want to speed up games, get Al Bradbury off TV.
So credit to the Ottawa offense, man. I think everybody knows that the Ottawa offense, when they're clicking...
Just for your information, because I know that this is intricate to your life or integral to your life, the Oakland Raiders are about to lose on a last-second field goal to the Denver Broncos.
I broke up with the Raiders.
Oh, I broke up with the Steelers today on multiple occasions as well.
I threw out the gnome on my desk. No longer care. Moving the team. This is not an NFL podcast, but moving the team to Las Vegas. The owner with the worst haircut in North America.
They have Chucky as a coach.
What an idiotic decision that was. They trade Khalil Mack. I don't really have time for the National Felony League anymore anyway, so I don't have time for it. I got better things to do.
Yeah, but I took Denver to win the AFC West in my futures bet, so this is huge.
I guess that makes it official. Yes, I have broken up with the NFL and the Oakland Raiders. It is in public.
It's not official unless it's on Facebook.
I'm not putting it on there. I'll tweet it maybe.
Okay.
But when this Ottawa offense was clicking, they're top 1 or 2 in the entire CFL. So, I mean, if they're able to do it against Saskatchewan at Mosaic Stadium, who can they not do it against? You know, I think this could be a real turning point for this Ottawa team as the season goes on.
See, and that I don't buy into because Harris has proven that he can't do this on a consistent week-to-week basis. That's the only thing that's wrong with their offense, that Trevor Harris isn't able to do this game in, game out. He'll go through 4 or 5 games where he is a little bit better than Zach Collaros. They have Spencer, Ellingson, and Sinopoli. Like, just get the ball, and Powell. Like, they have 4 of the best playmakers in the league, in my opinion. Get the ball in their hands. That's all you got to do. And, you know, there are weeks where he has 210 yards and doesn't get the job done. And that's what worries me, is that the inconsistency in their offense is what kind of leads me to think that they're not quite the juggernaut that everybody wants them to be.
Well, they're on a bit of a West run right now. On Saturday at home against Edmonton, then bye, and then home against Winnipeg. So there's some nice tests for them. We'll see if Harris can continue against that Eskimo defense on Saturday, and you know what? I think he can, man.
Oh, for sure. That the defense in Edmonton, I'm not saying they're terrible, just the style they play is very conducive to giving up yards.
It is. It totally is. So, your fantasy lineup, did you have Collaros again?
No, I did not. I shied away this week, but I should have taken him because he did better than who I had.
Did you take Pipkin?
Really
Who did you take?
Yes, I took Pipkin.
Okay.
And I paired him with BJ Cunningham. So listen to this. Pipkin 2.7. Jeremiah Johnson figured he's got to have a good game. It's Montreal. Usually shows up,
that
right?
Was a frustrating
7.2
one for me.
BJ with 4. Ellingson 7.7. DeVere Posey took a flyer, cheap, 7.2. Saskatchewan defense 1. Romar Morris 21.4. I ended up with 51.2 points. I'm now in 11th.
Oh no!
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
I'm now in 2nd. So
good for you.
I put up 88 points this week, but my Jordan Williams Lambert and Saskatchewan Roughriders had a combined 3.9. You could have saved so much money if you had the BC defense. Well done. 30 points.
30 points.
The only player that outscored him was William Powell this week. So I had Bo Levi 18.9, Romar Morris 21.4, Johnson 7.2, Reggie Bagleton 28, Lambert, Standback 9.2. I went with 3 running backs for maybe the first time all season, and I was pretty confident that the Rider defense and Jordan Williams Lambert would be able to get me to the 100-point mark, but no.
I really needed Ellingson to catch all 370 yards that Trevor Harris had.
That would have saved your week.
Touchdowns, and for them all to be touchdowns, and for the Riders to maybe get some fumble recoveries going back. That would have been nice too.
By the way,
to go my way Saturday night.
By the way, that Willie Jefferson block on the punter. How did that not get called?
I'm watching it. I'm sitting here playing Madden, whatever. I hear it happen. I look up and I see Willie Jefferson push Leone in the back. I'm like, why the f would you do that? And then there was no flag. And right then I'm like, this game is fixed.
All he needed to do was stare at Leone and he would have cowered. But
he didn't even have to get within 5 feet of him because Leone wasn't going to catch him.
No. Oh, but I guess it worked out for Ottawa anyway. But if they lost that game, I think Red Blacks fans would have had a case on that
for
call.
Sure.
But sometimes missed calls and the fix. We saw it in boxing. Canelo Alvarez and Triple G, they fixed the first one so they could have a big money rematch. So sometimes the fix is good for business, man.
And now people are upset that Canelo won, so we'll have a third one.
Exactly, and make even more money.
And if I would have pulled the trigger, I would have won $1,600 on Saturday, but I was chicken.
Cold feet, eh?
Well, I was going to parlay Cincinnati because they were a home underdog on Thursday Night Football. Take LSU because they were an underdog on the road against who did LSU play? Auburn. And I was going to take Canelo because Golovkin, they're a year older. Golovkin's 36. There's no way he's winning that bout. And it would have been, with what I bet, it would have been $1,600. And I was like, I better not do that. And yeah, I'm kicking myself now.
Well, how much are you going to bet on Money Mayweather in the rematch?
Oh, it won't be worth it.
It probably won't pay out, but I think I might bet my condo on it.
It's like the Rams this week are minus 1,000.
Wow.
So you got to bet $1,000 to win $100 on the Rams. No thanks.
That's like what the odds would be if Real Madrid played TFC.
Speaking of TFC, that Zlatan goal last night that he scored was unbelievable. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that was something else. We're talking about way too many sports
way too many
here, man.
things. Yeah. Wow, I mean,
we're all over the place.
There was only 3 games this week. We had to fill something in.
Yeah, I had 3 hours to get some extra things into my life this week. All right, Brazilian Ty. We'll be back Thursday morning. Of course, we're a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. There's a section, there's a genre, there's a show in there for everyone, man. The education and self-improvement section, the official section of Brazilian Ty. Check out Girl Tries Life. Victoria interviews many inspiring women to show there are many different ways to live an incredible life. Yes, there are. So check out Victoria's podcast, Girl Tries Life. Brazilian Ty tries to survive another day after eating nothing but processed sugars.
Wow, I can't wait to get into this hell of a good French onion dip, I tell you what.
What a brilliant name for a dip, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's the only kind of dip I buy.
Nice, because it's cheap.
That, and it's good.
Yeah,
like, it's not like Lucky Lager, it's like Michelob Ultra of dips.
All right, brother. Enjoy your hell of a good dip, and I'll talk to you Thursday, all right?
Talk to you later.
Rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. Yeah, we'll be back soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.